Hey, it's Nick with Nick's forecast. It's 27th of April, 22, just coming at you. Talk about some market swings today as the stock market's been gotten rocked and came back, got rocked, came back with those problems going on in the Ukraine, Russia, and NATO and U.S. basically in a proxy war and shut off the gas for Poland and Bulgaria. And basically, problems with supply lines are starting to get worse because of Shanghai. Also, to fertilizer and some other types of fuel that are not coming out of the Ukraine, especially fertilizer, not coming out of the Ukraine. And so you have all these, and plus the inflationary costs are all contributing to market forces. But the housing index, there's an article that came out on the Hill. So the average price of a house in the U.S. 156,000, and so the prices are actually 375,300. Excuse me. And for March 21 was 326,300. So for 121 consecutive months, it's gone up. The reason is because the interest rates are 3%, and that's all basically done by design. So now things are starting to slow down. Analysis suggests at least some home buyers have moved to the sidelines. I've said before, it's all going to come tumbling down because there's another from Credit Suisse and Deutsche Bank basically put out their basically super recession. Essentially, it's a depression um, that's going to come. If I was a buyer, investor, one of the two, I would hold off. If you're a real estate agent, mortgage broker, if you're not in the road soon, you're going to get hosed pretty hard. Um, the rates have gone up. Everyone's going ARM. They're going to 3, 5, or 10-year ARMs. 7-year arms too. They have some do have that, and that's an alt-day funding. Some people are going that to buy if they're depending what they're doing. And those I used to do arms a lot when I used to refinance people all the time. I did a lot of arms, but the only thing about arms is you got to keep track of that because if that rate goes up to 15%, it's going to 15%. Now, usually when arms come up, usually the mortgage company sends something out for mortgage brokers. And I had a giant database which I could have sold off, which I didn't want to, which I could have, but I didn't. Anyways, I used to send them out mailers every ways, so I always kept track, and then I have anniversary dates come up every time you get close. Within usually 6 months of an arm, just so you can get the process started, so you're good to go. So basically, they're talking about different things in this article on the Hill article. Price to rent ratios, that's kind of lame because they're only looking at Case and Schiller's only looking at so many, and it's generally the biggest city of Seattle, and is like number 8 in the country as far as places to buy foods, but that counts the east side, Bellevue and stuff like that, because I'm talking nationally here. So yeah, you got investors doing this and this and that, but see, the problem is the bonds. Bonds. And those bonds are ready to explode. Last year, they got really hit really hard, and no one's really talked about it. They've been real quiet about it. Even though there's a tight labor market, it means nothing because the inflationary is so high. Trucking's went into a lull. There was a Bank of America and Citi Bank came out with a basically report last couple days, and they talked about it on Monday, and they talked about it. And yeah, they're expecting a hard landing in 2023. Yeah, it's going to be hard because they're going to be raising the rate a half point next month, which is mean because the rates need to go up to get some of the stuff burned out of the system. Like I've been saying, yeah, Deutsche Bank now warning of major recession. So with all this craziness going on, you're if you're a buyer investor, I'd hold off. I would wait unless a really good deal comes along. And also, too, like for sale by owners, yeah, if you're a real estate agent or broker, yeah, you can go after real estate agent, mortgage broker. You can try to do one of your listings on there, try to get someone to finance it and buy it. But as a buyer, I'd hold off even for the for sale by owners because you're not going to get a good deal. It's like going to an auction at courthouse. You're not going to get a good deal. When the thing starts to hit bank like 2008, then you can start really working the bank. And if you're a real estate agent, you better get on with banks. If I were you, your mortgage broker, you better start looking your stuff out of conventional non-prime type of loans, subprime stuff, non-conforming. But I don't know how much that's going to be there, because just over 90% of all loans are government backed. But remember, they only cover 20%. That's insured. And so there's a lot of hedge funds out there, advisory groups, equity groups, mutual funds, and big, huge banks, even some big, giant credit unions that basically lend that stuff in the secondary market through some sort of offshore subsidiary, usually. Anyways, so things you need to look for in these swings. And I don't care if the rate right now is 5.25, 5.5. It's still low. Started the rates for about almost 9%. And that was 1995. So, I mean, because I was in the game for a long time. I was in the game for, about 25 years. So, now I'm still in the game, but now I'm looking at I keep looking at tax auctions, which I keep talking about, especially people in rural areas. If you're living in a city, I would go to a rural county, we're 25 miles out, 30, 40, 50, maybe miles out, 7 miles out, get an LLC started, put your money in LLC, you have to pay the taxes off, you may have to wait a year, so what? Most of the people don't ever come back. There might be 1, 2, 3 rounds on it, basically successioned off. Sometimes in the third round, like in the county I'm in, basically you only have to wait 90 days after you pay the taxes. So, and there's a lot of counties around the U.S. that have their own laws. You have state law, but the county kind of trumps its own. They make their own regulatory stuff on that. But I would just check. A lot of the counties from big cities in the west or east coast, you're not going to get much. But if you go out like in eastern Washington, eastern Oregon, eastern Montana, eastern Wyoming, some parts of Wyoming, as long as you're not back into Idaho, there's some areas there you might look for deals at some of these tax auctions. You got that's something that I would do because I think it's a good way to go. It's a good way to go as far as buying. Also, to send out postcard mailers. You can go ahead and email me if you want. I'll tell you what exactly we need. Facebook page, Facebook at Nick's Forecast. Go to nickforecast.com or go to my finance site, which is biz. Go to that site. We got a lot of different funding I can help you with, especially for commercial people, cool stuff that I have it, and I can help you there. But anyways, so you have these issues that are forming right now, and also to the problem, because more and more people are coming in, it's forcing stuff on border states, which are forcing increases in certain areas that they got to fork out in cash. The government's, which is basically putting taxes up. California, Newsom's coming up for gas, going to 5%. Already right now running close to $6 a gallon in some parts of California. Some is close to $7. And where I'm at, $3.85 a gallon. We have some of the lowest gas in the U.S. That's because of the states, and the county taxes are so low. But in the West Coast, it's $5 plus. East Coast the same way. Northeast, all the way up in the New England thing. Midwest, not as bad. Southwest, not as bad. Or the Southeast because of the reflatives. But this adds pressure to everything. Like I said, if you're an investor buyer, unless you can get a really good deal, I would hold off. Now, if you're buying an apartment building, that's a different deal. But apartment building crushed, I would start looking in the Southwest. I mean, it depends on where to, and you may not want to travel and do that, but look 100 miles out from where the city you're in, or 70 miles out. You get it basically once you get the Grant Cardone always says, just get the property locked up, you're good to go. And so, like I said, I offer financing for that type of stuff, especially stated no doc type of deal, so you can get in. And also 2 seller carrybacks, we can work that angle too. So, thing is that the markets, with the stock market getting slammed, going up and down, up and down, up and down. And you have bigger hedge funds and banks and so on. They're making a lot of money, but they've got a lot of insider knowledge. In other words, they got people in the pretty much telling them what's going on all the time. So, they got to know. But, a guy in the street like us, we don't have that ability to have the insider, stuff, the gecko insider kind of stuff. Blue horseshoe loves deal kind of things. So, you know what I mean? That's for the multi-billion, multi-trillion dollar players. But anyways, it all kind of goes back to the same thing. Interest rates are going to go up. The refi market's dropped except for the ARMs. So a lot of people are trying to shift over to ARMs to get those now, but it's still dropped. And basically, which I knew was going to happen. And the more it's going to keep dropping like a rock, which is great because more and more people put their houses on sale. And the prices are going to keep dropping. It's just, I like to see 30, 40% and open it up again. Could buy. Now, in a really rich area, like in the suburb areas, I saw an article a few weeks ago where they, increases in the rich areas, quote unquote, rich zips, and they haven't seen a lot of movement that way. So depending on the West Coast, East Coast, living at, the Northeast, whatever, it's going to be a different deal. Excuse me. Sorry, it's hot here today. Anyways, so these are things that you need to think about, but as at buying apartment buildings or a commercial building or a piece of land that's got buildings on it, never buy it and build on it like almost right away. That's just, I'm telling you right now, do not hold on to it unless it's a viewfront property, you can build on it. Don't buy raw land unless it's got, don't even touch it. That's just a big no. Unless you got the cold something on it, do it. Buying houses, yeah, triplex, fourplex, you're trying to get in something. I remember I was looking at Seattle a few weeks for this fourplex in the city outside of Seattle called Renton. It's like 20 minutes out, 25 minutes, 30 minutes. It's Renton's pretty decent sized city. But there's one part of Renton, they had this crap $1.2 million. It was a big piece of crap. That's all I can say. It was pretty bad. But that's what they're going for there. And, because the basically, the cap rate's only, 3.5% to 4%. Some places in Seattle area, low 3, under 3%, right around there. So anything can be 4% cap rates. So it's just how it is. And there's some other cities right next to it. Renton, it follows a highway, basically called the 405, and there's a place called Kennedale, which basically is close to an area called Bellevue. And basically there's a lot of you can homes right there, look at the Seahawks complex, and you got right there. So you can get great view on the water. There's this one real estate company they're called Kennedale Realty, and they've been there for years, right, 35 years or so, and they ton up there because of where it sits right into Bellevue. But it's kind of funny because I've done deals with them before, and it's just hilarious because you run on this one line of certain streets right between Renton and Bellevue, and the price of your house could go up $300,000, $400,000 on one block, and right on the next block over, it goes down $200,000. And they're just like that in Seattle. And there's a lot of places like that in Beverly Hills and West Los Angeles, Portland's like that area, Sacramento, Bay Area like that too, Marin County or County, Victoria County, San Francisco itself, Santa Clara County, street, just how close you are to basically some of the high-tech areas, high-tech companies, excuse me. So it's kind of funny how this one street like lays it. But as an investor or buyer, those are things you got to look at. And do not buy on a main street, please. If it's an apartment building, great. Building, yes, you want to buy it. If it's a house, don't buy it. Unless you're going to buy it cash, don't buy it. I wouldn't buy it anyways. You want to be at least one block off the main street. That's just suggestive advice because it doesn't hold a lot of value there. As far as, of course, people disagree with that, but I'll go after them all day long because they're full of crap. Location, great, but don't buy a house on the main street. Apartment building, commercial building, yeah, main street, but that, no. So basically right now what I'm telling you is you're an investor or buyer, you need to hold off and just wait. And because the market's going to implode here before too long, it's just going to go that direction. And a lot of times, a lot of these buyers are buying on emotion, and they're only buying in choice areas. They're on emotion, and the real estate, and not so much the mortgage brokers, but them too. But the real estate agents got them all jacked up and blah 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 blah. But then you go 3 or 4 miles down the road, and the market's not like that. And the people get all pissed off. Real estate agents because they're not selling the property, and you're not getting this, but you're not in a prime choice here. These are the realities. And the problem is your real estate agent being really oriented. It happens. Some are priced lower. I've sold probably 98%, 98% of my, 97% of my properties over 20 plus years. Usually I sell, but there's sometimes where it does go, or you can't get the price. They want to drop the price, or for whatever reason, take it back, and all of a sudden they list another realtor 3 days later, and the realtor talked them into it. Somehow they got through to the sellers, and they sold the price. And it was when I was a listing agent, because I listed a lot of properties, and my cousin, I would get an automatic drop in 30 days. And after that 30-day drop, usually sold right away, or I'd actually get another drop for another 2 weeks. So within 45 days, I'd have it generally knocked down. And that's a good strategy for a real estate, is you do the first drop 30 days, already have it signed, ready to go. You call up just to make sure it's good to go. And then you get another same time for 2 weeks later, 2.5 weeks later, and go ahead and drop the price. You just do that because you want to hit it. Now, you got the Kinder Reese model follows great Proctor model. They'll say you buy your property, but I'm telling you what, they ain't going to buy it. You've got like 100 different items they're going to go through, and you have to do all this stuff. You have to have these big giant drops and all this crazy stuff that you have to do for your house. You'll even touch it and buy it. And so it's a good marketing. It's a good marketing tech around the area. There are like 3 guys that do that. And they work in these different companies. You see their signs all over. I see it up and down the West Coast, Seattle area, all the time. But I've seen it in other cities too. I just laugh, But it's a good marketing thing and have different deals. So if you're an investor or buyer, you're a seller. If you're a seller, you probably want to get in now. But right now, everything's slowing up. So good luck. There's certain cities that are cranked over, but their stuff's coming, and their stuff's going to start falling 10%, 20, 30% for the next hit. The next hit's going to be worse than 2008. The recession. It's not going to be a recession. It's going to be a depression with all the stuff going on, like I mentioned before. So, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for buyers and investors. Sellers have to sell. Real estate's going to keep going no matter what. So it doesn't matter. There's always going to be buying, selling to something. That's the way it is. Real estate agents, you better get on bandwagon on that. Looking at some trainers, and you start about the road. Man, I wish I had Tom Berry's video from 2000. Yeah, it was about 2010 when basically YouTube started really going. But he had a good video out. I'm already sending it out, email us, because I've met him a bunch of times. So, but he had a good one about the bend in the road. And he kind of talked about it a little bit. Talked about it a few months ago, like 5-6 months ago. Joe Stump talked about it about 8 months ago. But Stump's not putting out as much. But anyways, if you're real estate, you check that out. Even Mike Ferry had some stuff on it. And Grant Cardone, I definitely check .com. Go there. You need to go to .com, and you need to check that out. Kinder Reese has got some pretty good stuff. Oh, Hospat, if you're a real estate agent, and I'm telling you this is for investors and buyers too, and sellers, because these are some of the top names in the game. If you ever try to get a real estate license or license, you want to do it on the side, these are some people you need to check out. Ross Pratt came out with a new thing for FISBOs. I just got a thing sent out to me the other day, another for some male targeted stuff, which I've talked about before in the past. So some of his stuff. But anyways, he's got something to look at. And the thing is I share the information out there so you can see it. As a real estate agent, you're going to get pounded here soon. You better start looking for another job unless you got something nailed. Get on with bank unions and try to get their to a list, especially if you're an agent that's got 5 to 10 years experience. Let's just say, for instance, you've done some stuff. You need to get on with some banks and this and that and look for listings. If going to start going up a lot. Mortgage brokers, you need to get more flexible as far as what you're doing. You need to do commercial and residential. I keep saying this over and over again, but a lot of these, I've talked to some of these mortgage brokers where I live, and and they don't do, the mortgage companies don't do commercial, and they don't know how to do it really. And yeah, you got some people at banks, but banks are limited. I don't go to a bank or credit union for any. They don't know how to do loans. Their loans are very limited. It takes forever this is commercial residential, even a refi. Their appraisers are usually pathetic. And so, go to a mortgage broker. Okay. So anyways, and these are just things that you need to think about. Then the road's going to come. So for an investor, you're good to go. Sellers sell when they sell. Problem with the sellers in really hot markets, they sell unless they're moving out of state. If they're going to try to buy up or down, it's going to be tough. But now that's starting to loosen up, and I like that because I want to see everything drop a bit, so it loosens up on the markets. And another problem too, like they're having all over the U.S., especially in the coastal states, that the basically the East Coast and West Coast, especially in the West Coast, is that 23, 24, 25 years ago, when the environmentalists had their hands and throats around a lot of the legislatures, because they're all Democratic and Republican legislatures both, and they got all this legislation passed from the land use acts. It didn't matter if you were a Democrat or Republican, because all these parties were passing all these the Senate or the House in a lot of states. They were all passing these laws, and so they guised everything under some weird stuff. But these land use policies, basically from the Democrats and Republicans, because I blame both of them, is that they basically forced the builders and squeezed out. Basically made all these crazy laws so no one can build. Cost has gone way up. It's bad enough we have a supply shortage now because a lot of stuff's coming out of Asia, and it's hard for companies in America. They move us, like in Brazil, Argentina, Chile. They send a lot of material out and go too, but the thing is, they were getting most of the stuff from China for a lot of the industries, but it takes time to ramp that stuff up. Companies that are doing it because they're pulling stuff out of China and they're going places, I know, and so it's just one of those things, like getting rubber out of getting rough. And here's another problem with the Shanghai problem. It's not just a lockdown and it's a weapon of war that they're using against the West. The problem is the containers. And those containers, they send them out, but because they need it in Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, Indonesia, the Philippines. They need their containers from China. A lot of that stuff comes out of Shanghai. Shanghai's 6 million people, and that is probably the biggest port in the planet. And they've got a couple of coastal areas around Shanghai where they've got some other ports where they send a ton of stuff out. But the problem is those containers, they send them empty to these different countries in Asia, and so you got a lot of product that's just not getting out. Boats are starting to pile up in the East and West Coast, especially on the West Coast, up and all along the port. You can see it. Pictures, LA, now they've got 170 boats, 160 boats. Port of Oakland, over 100 boats here, 100 boats there, 100 boats there, and then the East Coast, it's the same thing. And all the stuff, then you don't have the drivers to do it, but also too, if companies aren't ordering as much, the driver thing basically has gone down, but that still doesn't matter because there's companies are still hiring drivers, can't get enough. Right now, you can go to Walmart, and if you have your CDL, you can drive. You start out 110, 120,000 a year. It'll go up full benefits package. This is one thing. CR England, same thing, huge national company. There's a hunt company. I mean, there's a whole ton of them that are always hiring all the time, and you see them up and down all the higher enough. And that's just kind of one of those things. So what I'm saying is you got a lot of influence of events that basically, if you're an investor or buyer, it's going to be good for you. A seller, it's just you're going to sell when you have to sell. If you're a real estate agent, mortgage broker, you better get prepared for the bend because it's going to be a lot worse than 2008, at least what all the and then the stuff that they do in DC, who knows? I mean, it's ever changing type of deal. The elections are ways out, so you never know what's going to happen. What's going to happen in Ukraine, the threats from Putin and stuff like that. You just never know. So all you can do is just go ahead and work. Anyways, if you got any questions, go ahead and you can go to forecast.com. You go to Facebook's forecast, or I do have a Twitter one too, Twitter at nickforecast2, or you can go to cobrafunds.biz, or you can go to Facebook at cobrafunds.biz. Anyways, go ahead and subscribe to my channel.